All right, away we go. Here we go on Friday, August 15th. It's great to have you back here on Damon Bruce Plus, brought to you by our good friends at Ike Sandwiches. We'll tell you more about delicious sandwiches and how they would fit perfectly into your mouth this weekend. And our good friends at the Dubliner, even walking a billboard today for our good friends at the Dubliner West Portal. It is good to see you, good friends. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe. As always, good, please, and thank you. And hey, let's just be totally honest. We got a football game coming up. We got Niners. We got Raiders. That is going to kick off 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. But for the first time in a long time, we got a Warriors thumbnail. We got basketball out there on the horizon. If you look, you can kind of see it coming. And we got ourselves our first Warriors schedule. Everyone in the NBA got a schedule dropped on them, and we're not going to go through this whole thing game by game, obviously, but what we do have and what I do like is how it kind of all looks when it comes out in the wash. How is Team Grandpa going to handle this schedule? And it really is Team Grandpa. There's no doubt about it. The one thing we know about Grandpa is he might go to bed early. Hopefully the Warriors got their grandpas to stay up late, because for the first time in a long time, the 8 p.m. home game is going to hit the schedule for the first time this season. That 8 o'clock West Coast game, 11 p.m. tip-off back on the East Coast. I mean, man, that's a late start. That is not easy to be a Warriors fan on the East Coast with an 8 p.m. West Coast start, but that will be happening a few times this season, and one of them is going to happen in October. So get ready to stay up a little bit later with your Golden State Warriors. And to show you, though, that even with nothing happening in free agency, without draft picks of consequence, with an offseason that, thanks to Kuminga, has been nothing but frustrating, the Golden State Warriors are still the belle of the ball when it comes to national media attention and opportunities to play on national broadcast. A franchise record, 34 nationally televised games coming up for the Golden State Warriors this season. That is a whole bunch of attention on Team Grandpa that the NBA says, we need this in this league. And they do. I mean, what will the NBA do in its post-Steph, post-LeBron eras, it's going to come faster than you think. They're still dependent on those two teams, those two guys, for revenue, ratings, eyeballs, and attention. The Warriors, if attention means anything, should still have a really, really good season coming up. But unfortunately, attention doesn't mean that much. You want to always pay attention to back-to-back games. Again, older team back-to-back games are not friends. Well, 5 of the first 17 games are back-to-back. They have 15 back-to-back games. Better have those sea legs early if you're the Warriors. And all I can tell you is, what are you doing, NBA? How many times do you have the Warriors on national television on the second game of a back-to-back, and you expect a lot of people to watch a tired Warrior team and like that? Like, why do the Warriors have so many back-to-backs? Why does the NBA have so many back-to-backs? Why don't they just stretch out the start of the season to earlier in October, or push the NBA Finals back into July? If time is what you need, guess what? By miracle, I have found you more time, NBA. They've ignored me. I've been saying this for years. I've got what you need is more time. I have found more time for you. Expand the amount of days that you have in your regular season planning schedule. 20 days on the front end, 20 days on the back end. I just bought you another month plus. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and give your old teams, your young teams, your all teams a chance to put the best product on the court game after game. Load manage nothing if you just start scheduling this right. You could do that. The Warriors are going to have 6-game road trips in the month of November and in the month of March. They're going to have an 8-game homestand in the month of January. And then if they got to start stacking wins at the very end of the year to get out of that, 8, 9, 10 position you don't want to be in anymore. Well, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anyways, 7 of the final 10 are home games for the Golden State Warriors. 7 of the final 10 are home games for the Warriors. So we'll see what they got. We're not going to go over this game by game, but the schedule is out. There are elements of it that should be favorable. There are other elements that are going to be working against the Warriors, but here's how it all goes. Let me give you everything you need to know about a Warrior schedule release right here in an easy to understand and follow along sentence. Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond all play 70-plus games. They'll be right in the mix. I believe that. I know that the rest of the roster is still a head scratcher right now, but if you get Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond to play all about 70-plus games together, they'll be in the mix. And if they don't all play about that much, this team could drop from that 48 to 52 win sort of world you're hoping that they exist in to like 35 wins real fast. If they're now officially grandpa status core can stay healthy and can stay available, it'll be an interesting year. That's also the fastest way to slip, fall, break your hip in the NBA. It is a young man's league, and the Warriors at odds with their most talented youngest man on their roster, and Jonathan Kuminga. It's a really weird time to have picked that fight. There would have been so many minutes and opportunities for Jonathan Kuminga on a team that needs to start resting older guys to play starter minutes, whether he were a starter or not. And again, there is a nothing but salty relationship. Still, 50 days after they could have found some accord to get this thing done. It's ridiculous. It really, really is. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, when it comes to ridiculous, there is probably nothing more ridiculous going on in sports right now than how often a 49er is injured. We've been talking about this for days. I didn't want to do another show on it today. I don't really need to do anything for this weekend of 49er preseason football other than invite you to the watch party that we will have a live watch party live stream, 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. When you're watching 49ers and Raiders, make sure you got us on your second screen. It's a pretty good time. Even when they play poorly, we figure out a way to have a good time. I hope you plan on being there. Go ahead, hit notify, hit like and subscribe as well. CJ West will not be out there. And he was one of the players I was most looking forward to seeing again this weekend. CJ West had a hyperextended knee in that joint practice with the Raiders on Thursday. So congratulations to all involved. All 3 drafted rookie defensive linemen have found themselves hurt before the year even starts. And those 3 rookies all better have good years for this year to go in the right direction for the 49ers. So there's always that anxiety hanging over this team. It's something else. And Kruger and I did a wake up this morning. I cannot prevent injuries. You cannot prevent injuries. There is no way in a you're guaranteed to be hurt injury sport like football where you can say, oh, you know what? He won't get hurt. But you have to have a backup for when guys start getting hurt. You got to have a backup plan. And the best backup plan that the NFL could have right now is take all of that money I keep reading that you're printing yourselves and invest it into a larger roster. Game day, practice squad, taxi guys, grow the whole thing. More continuity, deeper teams means better football when injuries start to mount. Do it to make the NFL better. It would take nothing than the one resource that they have plenty of, and that's money. The NFL is not lacking for money, nor is it lacking for attention. And if it just spent a little bit more money on its rosters, I think it would get even more attention because you'd have teams that would, oh, we suffered a devastating injury. But you know what? The season isn't devastated. We can survive it. I think it'd make the entire league better and more interesting. By the way, in a week where we've gotten an awful lot of news about journalistic integrity around football, now that ESPN and the NFL are in cahoots together from a business standpoint, because of that cahoots, an interesting schedule wrinkle that I really didn't pick up on until I was rereading something today. But did you know that Monday Night Football doubleheaders are done? No more Monday Night Football doubleheaders. I kind of like those. I really did. I want as many games as I can crammed into a red zone Sunday, but 2 games, kind of nice to have on a Monday night. Not all the time, but some of the time. Well, all of that is gone now. Everybody gets their own like standalone, this moment, this game, this is so important now. So the NFL isn't going to give you 2 of anything in one sale. They're now going to want to sell each thing individually. They've got many media partners to now serve. Does anyone even care about journalistic integrity? People don't care about journalistic integrity and capital J journalism, much less the lowercase j sports journalism that we're talking about and we do over here. The NFL now owns 10% of ESPN. How does one, without conflict, cover oneself? Well, the answer is carefully and delicately. And guess what? That was happening anyway. Now, Mike Florio, who, has a flourish for the dramatic at times, was less of a, attention-grabbing clickbait seeker than he is right now. But again, you got Florio and Pro Football Talk he's a big part of the grease in the machine. So he's got to feed the machine. I get it. I'm not here to rip on him. Every now and then Florio uncorks something that is easily dismissible and you're like, that's just stupid. Every now and then he still reminds you why you started reading him in the first place. And I thought that he, when asked and did a column on Roger Goodell, who basically called into ESPN in some sort of meeting saying, hey, we're not going to tweak you from a journalistic standpoint, telling you what you can and cannot cover. Mike Florio put out a 3-pronged response, and I got to give him credit because it's pretty damn good. Number one, first he says, well, what's Roger Goodell gonna say? Like, you better watch out if you start writing articles about us we don't like. So, of course, he's going to say, we're going to be hands off. We are not going to come after you or try to conduct the way you cover the league, ESPN. Secondly, Florio writes, it would be different if the NFL didn't already have the habit of complaining to broadcast partners about things when they're written, because that already happens. So it's not like there is a world that currently exists where the NFL wasn't looking to put some pressure on some stories some of the time anyways. So that'll still be par for the course and probably easier to go about thinking about doing when well, we're not adversaries anymore, we're partners. So something that was happening anyways will continue to happen, even though the first thing Roger Goodell said is that's not going to happen. And the third thing that is living, breathing proof that it happens anyways is Jim Trotter. Jim Trotter, when he was working independently for the NFL, independent presence on NFL Network, Jim Trotter got let go the minute he started asking questions that the NFL was uncomfortable with. And we saw it all happen. And they can duck behind, layoffs and media and costs, blah, 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 blah. Again, the Cowboys woke up 24% more valuable than they were just a year ago. The average NFL team is now worth $7 billion. You could have spent all the money on Jim Trotter, tripled it, and still had an awful lot left over. So of course, the NFL has its fingerprints all over how it's covered. Of course, the NFL will have more fingerprints all over how it's covered now that they're partners, and pick and choose who you go to for, your actual coverage. That's what I'm here to tell you, that independent guys, independent media, which there is now more of than ever before, they'll be the ones tugging on the NFL's cape. They'll be the ones rattling the saber over uncomfortable topics and stories more than broadcast partners. But that's always been the case. So we shouldn't be surprised by it at all. Not at all. Again, I doomed myself to a smaller Friday audience when I went with a warrior thumbnail. But that's where I wanted to start today's conversation. Thank you for being a part of today's conversation. Great to see so many of the regulars. It's like we're just doing a group hangout here right now. But that's cool. It really is. It's good to have you all here because I got some interesting things to talk about that, just some things that have slipped through the cracks this week. Something new popped up in the cracks just this morning when Michigan got confirmation that cheating pays. So Michigan cheated on the way to winning a football national championship. Jim Harbaugh arranged for Connor Stallions to have an intricate, clandestine taping operation of other team sidelines and how they send in signals. They would then decipher what those signals meant according to the plays that were run, and they used that to know what was coming on the way to their national championship. That was proven. And this entire time, when Michigan even copped to it a bit and started suggesting, hey, if you want to suspend our next coach a couple of games next year, we're suggesting he's to get suspended for a couple of games. You're admitting, yeah, we know you got us. You know that we've done something wrong, but hopefully you won't drop the hammer. And so the NCAA was like, all right, are we going to drop the hammer? And no, they didn't. They didn't at all. They didn't at all, even though a confirmed cheating scandal occurred. And in that cheating, Michigan won a lot of football games and a national championship. The NCAA said, here's just a fine. All you got to do for that is now pay for it. And the guy that we're really punishing, he ain't here anymore. Jim Harbaugh got a 10-year show cause. The Chargers have already said no comment, and Jim Harbaugh, in his mind, he's not going back to college football. So what does that affect Jim at all? No, it doesn't. So a totally toothless penalty, embarrassing as it may be to Jim Harbaugh, means nothing. $20 million to the University of Michigan to win a national championship, you could quintuple that number. They would have spent that number on that. So a $20 million postseason revenue fine means nothing. They would have spent that anyway. So toothless. The 2-game suspension, though, for their current head coach, Sharon Moore, man, he must have got like half the season, right? No, he got a 3-game suspension, 2 games to be served this year and 1 game next season. So the feckless, toothless NCAA doesn't even have the ganas to go ahead and suspend him 3 games in the same season. You got an 8-year show cause for Connor Stallions. You got a 3-year for another guy that was involved, and that's it. The other guy who was involved was former player Denard Robinson, but who cares? That's it. I mean, Michigan would have paid triple that to have done what they done. No vacating any titles, no vacating any victory. And the NCAA just said, on things that we used to go to the mattresses over, we're basically going to drop a shrug emoji on now. And we're going to try to embarrass Jim Harbaugh's reputation that he literally will never even tap into again because Jim's all done coaching college. What are we doing? Toothless, absolutely toothless penalty. And I'm again, Indiana, start filming sidelines, start cheating all the way to, again, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Apparently, that's what the NCAA just said anyway. Kind of another interesting thing from a sports legal standpoint that is going on right now. Joe Pampliano was on this. I didn't see anybody else really writing about this. And it's odd because Jon Gruden's got a lot of fans still. Jon Gruden had himself a really good week in court, bringing a case against the NFL, which means the discovery that we will be privy to could be delicious. Joe Pampliano writes, it's been a busy few days in sports media, and one of the things that hasn't been nearly getting enough attention is the Nevada Supreme Court ruled in favor of Jon Gruden this week in his lawsuit against the NFL. This sets up one of the most high-stakes legal battles in NFL history. The NFL's best lawyers have spent 4 years trying to keep this lawsuit confidential, but it's going to court. And it's going to court, and Jon Gruden isn't looking to settle or be bought out. He wants some public embarrassment and vengeance because you know what? They burned him down. So he wants to throw a can of gasoline right back at the NFL. And this is the way to do it. Joe Pampliano writes, while most lawsuits in professional sports tend to be boring and meaningless, this one is different. The preliminary filings have already given us a look inside how NFL controls its image through ironclad employment agreements. And Jon Gruden, again, He's not really looking for money. He's looking to burn the damn house down. Discovery. Oh, we now are subpoenaing the email communications from a 3-year period of every NFL team. Like, that could happen here. And because it's going public to court, we all get it. It won't be some sort of sealed special testimony from grand jury, settled out of court, results never really discussed or found. This would be lifting up the NFL skirt and showing everybody the underpants. And the NFL does not want that. And that could happen. That apparently will be happening. Ooh, that sounds kind of fun, doesn't it? That sounds kind of fun to me. So here's a topic that no one's going to like because it sounds a little, I'm a concerned parent trying to look out for you. I'm just going to present you with some facts and do with this information what you will. But the concept of gambling everywhere on sports, it's going to come crashing down. It's going to come in very hot. And there are two different ways to look at this. First, we're going to talk about guys who may be involved, and then we're going to talk about the actual gambler themselves, what he and she is risking by entering a world of faster gambling access and payoff than ever before, when really none of that was ever supposed to be attached to the concept of gambling. Vegas even knew that. Vegas, in a weird way, protected you from your worst gambling demons in ways that apps and modern gambling does not. Okay, so let's start with what Michael Porter Jr., Denver Nugget, Michael Porter Jr. was saying recently on a podcast that calls Steiny Says. And no, it's not Matt Steinman's from 95.7 The Game. But what Michael Porter Jr. said was sort of the quiet part right into the microphone when he talked about temptations players have to do right by their friends when it comes to, you know what? Forget it. Here's Michael Porter Jr. talking about it. Let me unmute this. And this is what he had.
There you go.
You get mad at these dudes like
that don't get your parlay.
Think about if you could get all your homies rich by telling him, yo,
no,
bet $10,000 on my under, this one game I'm gonna act like I got an injury and I'm gonna sit out. I'm gonna come out after 3 minutes. And they all get a little bag because you did it one game. Like, that is so not okay. But some people probably think like that. They come from nothing and 100%. All their homies have nothing.
100%.
And they're like, bro, if I come out of this game after 3 minutes and y'all all hit on my under, we're all getting a little bag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I obviously my brother went through his situation. Malik Beasley's going through a situation right now. Terry Rozier was in some hot water. But the whole sports gambling entity, bro, it's bad, and it's only gonna get worse, bro. Like we really do get death threats. Like if you and the thing is you can't.
Somebody doesn't hit a parlay.
Just cut it off right there. It's bad, and it's only going to get worse. Now I got my man Shyam right here saying, players been throwing games since the beginning of time. This ain't surprising to me. Look, it might not be surprising you, but how rampant it could become should be concerning to you. That's the way it goes. He just said, hey, you can't go ahead and do what guys are absolutely doing. And this is the old, is it a crime to steal a loaf of bread to feed your hungry family? There's a little morality in what you're doing, so I get it. But it's also stealing, which is a crime. So, how about this? I will have more sympathy to you. And basically what he said is, look, it's real simple. Got a whole bunch of friends at home from a neighborhood who could have a real quick grab at the cash bag by making a wager on my under. And all I got to do is tap out of a game. So all of those come in under. And you know what? Whether we win or lose, it doesn't matter, because we all know that the NBA has built in 20, 30 basketball games that don't even matter to the entire league in every regular season schedule. It's only 50 games that matter. There's 82 games in the year. So it's built to encourage guys to like throw away games, throw away performances. So that is an NBA player saying, even though that would be wrong, I could see guys doing it, and I know why they're doing it. So that is an NBA player basically saying, this is out there, this is happening, there you go. Okay. Thank you, Michael Porter Jr., for the honesty. Just this morning, a college basketball point shaving investigation is close to coming out with indictments. I saw this from Sports Illustrated. The probe features multiple teams with a focus on Southern schools relating to the gambling ring that ensnared an NBA player, Jonte Porter, who is the brother of Michael Porter Jr. Sports Illustrated said that the U.S. Attorney's Office conducted interviews with players suspected of manipulating their performances for the benefit of gamblers who waged on games. The investigation covers multiple regions and teams, and a source said, quote, these are going to be there are going to be charges. It's going to be national in scope. It's going to involve multiple players and programs. In other words, if you think that this is happening in the NBA, where guys got a lot of money to lose if they get caught, how about in a world where there's just as much gambling, not nearly the money to lose, closer contact with the friends who you're trying to make right because you're all in college together, and unless you got some juicy NIL deal, you know, you're a broke kid too. How can we make a little money off of a night of basketball? We're about to find out how rampant this is. Again, this is a story that came out this morning. Another story that came out this week that you probably didn't even hear about. According to College Football Insider, Pete Thamel, Oklahoma's star quarterback, is under investigation after reviewing a series of Venmo transactions that he made. Now, this is Joseph Mateer is the kid's name, Joe Mateer. He actually had a Venmo transaction from back in 2022 when he was a redshirt on the team that had the caption UCLA and USC. Venmo transaction. Well, now that this guy no one noticed it when he was a redshirt. Now they're going back and looking at receipts because he's the starter. He's a profile guy now. And they're like, well, what is this? He has said that it was a harmless cash transaction between friends who included a joke. Do you want to believe that? Do you want to believe that? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I have written checks to friends where I've included a joke on the memo line of the check. I've told jokes on checks. So could that happen on Venmo? Sure. It's probably more likely he had a little money riding on a game, though. I mean, let's be honest, right? Maybe. You know, it's just crazy. And, you know, and Chef A saying, what an idiot. A paper trail? Seriously. Didn't you watch The Wire? Stringer Bell, are you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy? What are you doing? So there's a story that you would think at any other point in time would be like a really big story. Starting Oklahoma quarterback could possibly be involved in gambling. You hadn't even heard about it until right now, probably. There is so much gambling stuff, investigation going on right now that something is brewing. And then beyond all that, the other part that I want to talk about, not just the guys who might be involved in rigging the game, the under, the bet as the player. What I want to talk about is to the damage that the gambler, he or she, could be taking on. So obviously, I don't have to tell you that just the concept of gambling being around sports was so taboo at a time that the NFL wouldn't even allow a Las Vegas, come travel to Las Vegas commercial to be run during NFL games. That's how taboo gambling was around sports, around football. They wouldn't even let a Vegas tourism campaign run during a football game. Gambling is something that you were never supposed to have unfettered access to. The NFL didn't even want you thinking about it. They didn't even want you thinking about where could I go to gamble. So every other commercial now around a football game seems to be for a gambling service, a gambling app, a daily fantasy, a new game, a fantasy something involved in wagering on this game in a new, creative, hard to lose, nearly risk-free way with bonus dollars. Sign up today, you get a bonus, this, that, the other. You cannot lose and not only can you not lose, even though we all know you certainly can lose, boy, it's going to enhance your enjoyment. And you know what? There's some truth to that. If you think a game is spicy that you have no money on, put a little money on it, it becomes spicier. This is fun. This, when done in moderation, is a fun thing to do. It really, really is. Going to a casino, making a few bets, winning or losing them either way, that was fun. We were here to do just that. We did that. And now we're going back home, which means tomorrow we're not going to wake up and do it again. See, this is the way sports books used to work. Would you ever think that the sports book was actually protecting you from gambling? In a way it was, because it was location-based. It was proximity-based. Gambling was never something you were supposed to have unfettered access to. You either needed your bookie. You either needed to go to Vegas or Reno to do this, or you needed the illegal means to do it. Again, your bookie, your gold sheet, however you did it, but it wasn't so easily accessible. You knew a guy, you had a guy, you got a guy who can do this for you. But if you cannot get that guy on your phone before kickoff, guess what? That bet didn't go in. And so you're kind of out of luck right now. His phone was busy. I didn't get the bet in. The actual window coming down in a casino, shutting it on you. Sorry, the game's kicked off. You cannot make that bet. Well, the damn line was really, really long, and I wasn't able to get the bet in. How many times did you go to bet on a game in person in Vegas? You didn't get to the window in time, and you know what? You would have lost the bet. You're like, whew, thank God. A guy named John Arnold, who covers gambling and its effect on sports and people, had some pretty sobering numbers and statistics backed by the theory saying, apps have an ease of access and a speed and pleasing user interfaces that were never supposed to be attached to gambling. Gambling. So the single most gambling thing you do in Las Vegas are the slot machines. Still, there's nothing that makes more money in Vegas than slot machines. Well, slot machines have a high speed rate of betting. You make a bet every single time you pull that lever. That's a bet. That's a bet. That's a bet. That's a bet. Tap, 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 tap. Full credits, bet. Tap, 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 tap. You had an awful lot of speed in placing the wager, but you had low amount of access. In order to be in front of a slot machine, you physically had to be in Vegas. You physically had to be in Atlantic City. You physically had to be in a casino. You could not just play a slot machine from the passenger seat of your own car. So even though it was a high turnout, it was slow to get to. Look at lottery tickets. It's the exact opposite. You got a high amount of access, but there's only one lottery drawing every day in some instances, or every week, or your lottery gambling can't last longer than the stack of scratcher cards that you have in front of you. Once you scratch your 10, you're done, unless you go buy more. But if you've already left the store, you don't have access to buying more. But the access was easy, but it was slow speed in terms of how many gambling, I know how many lottery tickets you're going to buy for the day. Legal sports books, again, low access and low speed. Takes a while to place your bet when you're in there. Takes a while to get there to place the bet. Now it's all online. Online gambling is gambling cocaine when all other gambling throughout the history of gambling has always, like, at worst been a clinking cocktail glass. You know, the ice cubes, clinky, 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 clinky. Like, this is bad for you. But, you know, it's a lot easier to handle a couple cocktails than it is all of this cocaine that we set up on the back of the toilet for you. Online sports gambling is gambling cocaine. It is instant access in terms of how many wagers you can make. And it's all happening at warp speed. As a matter of fact, as soon as you place a bet on some apps, they're like, check out these other betting possibilities. Have you looked at this parlay? Did you know that you get a 10% bonus if you got a 3-team parlay or more going? Again, just dopamine hits. That's what they're clobbering you with. Dopamine hits. Again, the NFL used to be so against gambling up until 2009, it wouldn't allow the city of Las Vegas to run a commercial to come to Las Vegas during football games. Now there is a franchise in Las Vegas. We've done a Super Bowl in Las Vegas, and the gambling industry at this point is a fully integrated media partner for the NFL. Went from totally taboo, never say it, to now let's go to Scott Van Pelt, who's going to do a segment about bad bets, bad beats. So the whole pendulum has dramatically shifted the other way. And along with that dramatic shift, the amount of how many bets can you make in a satisfying, easy-to-use interface can you do? I mean, we were never supposed to have this much access. U.S. News survey of Americans who have placed a bet in the last 6 months. Listen to these numbers. Listen to these numbers. By the way, SD joking around says 3 out of 5 doctors recommend gambling. Well, look, you want to go ahead and you want to get that you want to get that heart rate up? Put some serious money down, let that fourth quarter be tight. Maddie 2714 says app gambling is Pandora's box. It's not going away now that it's out, regardless of the societal fallout. Way too much money is being made, and you are right. Not only is the gambler addicted to the gambling, but now the leagues themselves are addicted to this never-ending stream of revenue that seems to be coming their way thanks to gambling being legalized. But guess what? In the latest survey of Americans who have placed a bet in the last 6 months, these numbers should be sobering to you. 25% of Americans who say that they placed a bet in the last 6 months say that they've been unable to pay another bill because of gambling. That's 1 out of 4. 30% now claim to have a debt that they attribute directly to gambling. 15% have taken out a loan to either fund wagers or pay them off. So now you're borrowing money with interest to make bets with VIGs or pay off gambling debts. That ain't good. 52% of anyone who has made a bet in the last 6 months, according to this U.S. News survey, 52% say that they carry a gambling-related credit card debt from month to month. Again, how could this lost wager cost me even more money? Well, I paid with it on a credit card with a 19% interest rate. 21% of those who say that they've gambled in the last 6 months say that they have verbally abused an athlete in person or online because of a gambling loss. And another survey says that 60 to 80% of boys in high school or in college have gambled on sports already. Thanks to this app. The apps. All the apps. Well, you know, you got to be 18 years old. Oh, yeah, it's really hard to log on under 18 and figure out a way around that. There is a wave of gambling devastation that will hit the American shoreline in the next 3 to 5 years, you are going to start seeing more players and how they're involved and the ramifications of that and the stories of staggering gambling devastation becoming common in a generation. By the way, the best way to do Vegas is to go to Vegas a few times and then finally figure out how to do Vegas. So like the 4th or 5th time you're in Vegas, you know what you're doing. You're a little bit of a veteran. You got a whole bunch of college kids who, again, have never been anywhere that has had this much addiction forced in front of them as they have right now generationally in gambling. And yeah, this isn't just, this is older people too, but hopefully older people got a little know how to back away from the table. It's the easiest way to grab onto an addiction is to do it when you are a teenager or a young adult. It's just the truth. And there is going to be a wave of devastation coming. I'm just telling you. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not going to quite be the opioid epidemic. But I couldn't help but notice how, the crack epidemic, when it was affecting a whole bunch of inner city youth, wasn't that big of a deal to America. But the minute, white kids in West Virginia started overdosing, oh boy, that became a pandemic in America, didn't it? An epidemic. And oh my God, now the opioid crisis is a big crisis. Because look at the communities that it's hitting that thought that they were insulated from this sort of thing. Wait until they find out gambling comes in every neighborhood, every color, and it's about to crash like an opioid addiction. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Gambling right now is still being presented as fun, flirty, alternate way to have a little bit more spice added to your game day. 2-3 years from now, it's almost going to be illegal to advertise gambling like that. You watch. Something's going to have to be done. Or maybe in this unregulated world, maybe nothing will be done. I don't know. But did you know that if you go down a cereal aisle in a lot of countries, you won't see a whole bunch of animated characters on kids' cereal? Like there is no Tony the Tiger saying, come by me. There is no Toucan Sam on the Fruit Loops saying, come by me, little kids. Don't I look like a fun cartoon character you want to be having breakfast with? No, because they know little kids respond to that. They don't want little kids buying all that sugary cereal. So they don't want the little kids begging. Where are all the fights in the grocery store happening? In the cereal aisle. Because everything looks like an animated movie in there. Of course, I want to bring home the fun, cute, fuzzy animal on the box. That looks fun, Mom. That looks delicious. Have you ever noticed that there were never fun, cute, fuzzy animals like on a box of Mueslix or Grape Nuts or adult unfun cereals? Like they're not using goofy cartoon characters to get kids interested. It's illegal in other countries. Here, go right ahead. Here, go right ahead. Here, why don't you put a blinking neon sign that says, kid, don't you want this? This has got a lot of sugar in it. Well, that's what these apps are. These gambling apps are all blinking, fuzzy animal, cereal mascot boxes blinking at a generation who just wants. This is, good luck, everybody. Good luck. I hope you plan on joining us tomorrow. I really do. I hope you plan on joining us Saturday afternoon for a live stream. You can go and find that studio now on my YouTube channel page. Hit notify. You won't miss a thing. Hit like and subscribe. And again, my guy, Ike, has a delicious sandwich just waiting for you right now. And if you signed up for that Love Rewards program this week, you've got free chips and drinks already waiting for you because it is National Sandwich Month. And of course, my boy, Ike is honoring that. I hope you live around in Ike's. I hope you've considered checking out Ike's Catering for your next big event, either at office, in your backyard, having a whole bunch of people over for that first football Sunday of the year. Order some Ike's. Check out Ike's Catering. Feed everybody easily, happily, deliciously. Get it done. And let me tell you, our good friends at the Dubliner, logo to be found right there. Logo to be found right here. The Dubliner West portal has got you taken care of. Come on through. Get yourself a refreshing beverage. Get yourself a hey, how are you from Kenny, one of the best bartenders you're ever going to meet in your life. Say hi to John for me. Tell him that the Plu sent you the Dubliner and West portal, and take Muni to or from there and not have to worry about driving, parking, DUIs, DeMarcus Robinson, nothing. Don't worry about any of that. We have a rather interesting day in history to go over, and as you all know, that is how we wrap things up around here. Happy National Sandwich Month to those who observe. Thank you, Carl. I'm glad you are observing. Okay. Today in history, August 15th. What do we got going on? So I can't really tell you what shows she was in, but man, I heard this name over network television all the time. Deborah Messing is 56 years old. Very pretty, curly hair. That's all I know. I think she was Will and Grace. Was that Deborah Messing? I don't think I've watched a single show she's ever been in, but I know who she is. She's a celebrity, Deborah Messing, 56 years old today. Did I say 58? 56. Let's not put it on Deborah when it's not necessary. Happy birthday to Ben Affleck. We just talked about the other day. It was a boring day of birthdays. We only had a birthday to wish to Casey Affleck. Well, today, his brother, Ben Affleck, 52 years old. Do you like a big birthday? Well, I guess that's all birthdays for Boban Marinovic. Boban, 36 years old today. Everybody's favorite. That guy's huge, every NBA player. He's got a great sense of humor. He really does. Happy 34th birthday, by the way, to Jennifer Lawrence. Fabulous actress. Good in everything she's in. I've never seen Jennifer Lawrence in a movie and said, somebody else could have done that better. She's great. She really is. So thank you to everyone celebrating a birthday. May you have a great day. Happy birthday, I guess, to the Sistine Chapel. Today in 1483, Pope Sixtus, it's funny, his name was Pope Sixtus IV. Pope Sixtus IV consecrated the Sistine Chapel and dedicated it to the Virgin Mary today in 1483. I don't have the direct translation of that day's events, but I'm sure the Pope basically said something like, hey, wait until you see this a roof. Wait until you see this a ceiling. It's a nice. Sorry, I was a big Father Guido Sarducci fan. Today in 1843, I don't know why I've seen an awful lot of documentaries about amusement parks that I've had, and every single one of them is going to tell you about Tivoli Gardens. It's the oldest still intact amusement park in the world in Copenhagen, Denmark. Happy birthday, 1843. Tivoli Gardens opened, most famous for its wooden roller coaster, the Russian Banban, or the Bergen Banban, which is the mountain coaster. So there you go. Today in 1914, in building shit news, did they ever build any shit bigger in 1914 than the Panama Canal? Let's dig through an entire country. Let's just take South America out of the circumnavigating the globe equation. Panama Canal, kind of a big deal today in 1914. Congratulations to all Panamanians and canals involved in that. We're very, very happy for all involved in that. Okay. We go all the way to 1947. Happy birthday, Indian independence from Great Britain. Today's the day. India gained its independence from the British Indian Empire today in 1947. So there you go. I feel like it's been a while since I've had a little Indian food. Maybe we'll order some tonight. Celebrate India's independence. A little saag paneer. Ooh, that's good. A little chicken vindaloo. Give me some garlic naan. I'm a happy guy right there. All right. Today in 1948, CBS launched the first network TV news broadcast. There you go. Happy birthday TV network news, CBS, 1948. I don't even know if there is TV network news anymore. Who's watching that under the age of 80? I would not know. Today in 1965, the Beatles played Shea Stadium in New York. It was considered a major rock concert, obviously. There were only a few hundred watts of sound for the band to actually use, and the girls screamed so loud that the Beatles could not hear themselves. I don't know how many people at Shea Stadium could actually hear the Beatles, and that's why the Beatles were like, you know what? Playing these concerts is kind of stupid. Let's just put out albums. These girls are nuts. But that happened today in 1965. Speaking of music in the 60s, today in 1969, groovy things were happening in upstate New York. Woodstock. Woodstock opened in upstate New York today in 1969. A 3-day ticket to the event were $18 in advance. If you bought it when you got there, it was $24. Look at the Woodstock lineup and tell me you wouldn't pay $18 for that or $24 for that. But the better idea would have been to spend no bucks for that and just be one of the 500,000 people who showed up unexpectedly. They were like, hey, forget about tickets. Just let everybody in. This is insane. And Woodstock, born today, 1969. Today in 1979. Coming out of the drug culture that a lot of people say was really permeated in those Woodstocky days. Today in 1979, after a famously troubled production, its troubles included film equipment breaking down because we're in the jungle. It included we're breaking down because we're doing straight rock-up jungle heroin, and everyone kind of going crazy because there's a lot of heroin on this set right now. And oh, by the way, Marlon Brando showed up a little crazy. Martin Sheen had a heart attack. Dennis Hopper is here, and I think Dennis Hopper is popping stems and caps with each and every meal. This guy's out of his mind. Today in 1979, Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now was released. I mean, a film classic. You do get Brando at the peak of his excess. Dennis Hopper at the peak of unhinged crazy. If he looks like he was on drugs in that movie, it's because he was on drugs while they were filming that movie. Martin Sheen, Robert Duvall. Little trivia fact for you. Did you know that you have a very fresh-faced and young Harrison Ford at the very beginning of Apocalypse Now? Harrison Ford is in the tent giving Martin Sheen the assignment to go up the river and kill Kurtz. And there you go. Apocalypse Now is nuts. By the way, there is a documentary called The Heart of Darkness about making Apocalypse Now that is maybe better than Apocalypse Now. So watch Apocalypse Now, then go watch The Heart of Darkness if you want to see how screwed up the filming of Apocalypse Now was. You have a very young Lawrence Fishburne in Apocalypse Now. Lawrence Fishburne, chief among the guys to get addicted to serious hardcore drugs while he was filming. It was his first ever film. A 17-year-old Lawrence Fishburne doing heroin in the jungle with Marlon Brando. Must have been a kick. We told you about the Beatles earlier today in history. Let me give you one more note about the Beatles today in history, and this one involves Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney had a falling out. Michael Jackson asked Paul McCartney while they were filming the was it the Ebony and Ivory? No. I think it was the Say what you mean and don't think that I would love you. Yeah. Or maybe it was The Doggone Girl Is Mine. We had a few McCartney, Michael Jackson collabs. And one day, Michael came up to Paul McCartney. Paul, can you give me some musical advice? And Paul McCartney was like, sure, love. What you should do is make sure you buy your... I can't do the Paul McCartney accent as better as I can do. But anyways, Paul McCartney told Michael Jackson to buy publishing rights, certainly to his own music. And Michael Jackson took that advice to heart And for $47.5 million today in 1985, back when that was an awful lot of money, Michael Jackson bought the publishing rights to the entire Beatles catalog. Paul McCartney wanted that, by the way. Michael beat him to it, and they had a falling out because of it. And that happened today. Was it Say, Say, Say? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was a good song, right? And yes, Chef A. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Carl correctly saying it was in Bethel. It was at what? Old Man Nasgard's farm in Bethel, New York, not in Woodstock. But again, this is, they don't want to be called the Santa Clara Niners. They want to be called the San Francisco 49ers, even though one is not the other. But yes, it was in Bethel, New York. Correct. Carl, thank you very much for watching. Chef A, thank you. Otis, thank you. Oh my gosh, look at all the lovely regulars that we had. Must be trouble. Our man Joe Sullivan was in here today. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for stopping on by. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you plan on coming back to the Plus 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. We got a live stream watch party. Raiders, Niners. Let's go. Preseason game. Preseason. Let's just get it over with. Let's get to the regular season. It's coming fast. I believe we are now 23 days away from week 1 for the 49ers in Seattle. And oh, by the way, Kruger and I will be back with another wake up. Today's wake up is available right now to you on live stream. It's going to be available to you on all your podcast platforms coming up very shortly here. I'm about to post it. But we're going to be doing a wake up on Sunday, the day after a Niners game. Larry and I were always on at 9 a.m. for a wake up, and we will be with you Sunday morning. Come and have some coffee and breakfast with us here on the West Coast. And if you're on the East Coast, again, I hope you got that Ike sandwich, and you're going to get an Ike's near you soon enough to where you can do that. In the meantime, thank you so very, very much for being here. Like and subscribe, notify, maybe pick up, I don't know, a membership. We got merch. Most importantly, though, we got a football season coming. And we got our first look at the Warriors schedule, too. That was fun today, didn't you think? I thought so. Meanwhile, please do remember that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, he's gone.